Righty-ho, welcome back for another single malt review. Sadly, Dave is sick today, so the dominion of the table falls to me alone. But the malt is still current. It's the Ardbeg Perpetuum, if that plays on camera. Anyway, here's the bottle. It is, of course, Ardbeg's Ardbeg Day release, which they do once a year. This one is in honour of their 200 year in production. Well, not necessarily in production. 200 years as a distillery. They have, of course, spent quite a few of those years out of production, but never mind. So, what have we got in here? I have it from reasonable authority that what they've put into this one is something of a vatting of their previous special releases, which sort of makes sense if it's supposed to be a celebration of everything they've done. I think principally there's supposed to be some alligator and a little bit of Galileo among other things. The strength is 47.4, so I really doubt that's cask strength, but it is an abnormal strength, so I'm not sure if that's a reference to something or whether they've just been creative with the dilution, but either way, 47% or so as it is. And it's quite a pale whisky, obviously not coloured, but that's more or less, looks to me, about the same colour as the 10-year-old, just the house blend as it was. So I don't think there's anything tremendously old in here. I don't think it quite has that the old sherry casks that go into, say, Ugadal, which is my favourite Ardbeg blend. Do try it if you have the opportunity. At any rate, let's get into this one here and see what's going on. So at initial full strength here, it's not too aggressive at all. There's no burn on the nose, which isn't too surprising given that it's a sort of a sub 50% in here, but it smells a bit like breakfast to me, breakfast on a good day anyway. I get a real striking hint here of fried bananas, if you've ever had fried bananas for breakfast, and a little bit of cured meats. It's a real sweet and salty, which is something that is quite common to Ardbeg whiskies. Some Islers produce a sweet and sour. Ardbeg to me always produces a sweet and salty. It's one of the big sort of signature things I get off their more interesting whiskies at any rate. The 10-year-old is slightly on the drier side of things, but anyway, what else is here? There's a bit of green apple. Smoke, obviously, but it's quite a mealy, quite a savoury sort of a smoke. It's not as tarry as it can be, and it's not particularly ashy. It's a real iodine-rich sort of almost a barbecue, salty, savoury smoke. I think it's quite appetising, really. And on the palate, it's quite light and fruity. It's quite a crisp palate. There's sort of white fruits, apples, that sort of thing. Really quite light, initially quite delicate, but the smoke comes in and makes itself known fairly rapidly, but just like in the nose, it's not a hugely aggressive smoke. It's more salty, savoury, which I'm totally okay with. The Alligator and the Ori Verde was the most recent release that they did for their Ardbeg Day, and I thought those were just slightly on the young side, just slightly on the dry side. They were very peaty, and I think to the detriment of some of the more delicate flavours which you can get out of Ardbeg. Let's see. There's some cured meats, again, sort of maybe a sort of a salty, dry cured ham kind of thing going on. Not bacon. It's not hugely strong, but it is there. And the finish is, it's gentle. I'm not sure it's as never ending, as the bottle suggests, but it is quite long and it's quite sweet as it sort of just slowly diminishes. Over time, the smoke and the sweet are all that remains, and that does go on for quite a long time. So, really rather good, really. Let's see if water makes any particular difference. I found in the past that a bit of water really brings the smoke out of Ardbeg whiskies and can make them, if anything, slightly harsher rather than the other way around. But let's see. That's really sort of set the smoke on fire a wee bit. There's quite a lot more sort of ropey, tarry qualities going on in there now than there was before. The fruit, either the fruit's taken a back step or I've killed it with that water, but now this is smelling a lot more like Ardbeg 10-year-old now. So let's see. No, much smokier. If you like your peated whiskies very peaty, then with a bit of water is probably the way to go there. That's all but turned it back into straight up Ardbeg 10-year-old, I think. It probably was, I think, a bit more interesting before I put that water in. Some of the sweeter characters were a bit more obvious, but never mind. And that's freshened the finish, but also shortened it somewhat, so never mind. So I think this is very good, and it's my favourite of the last few Ardbeg releases. I think I haven't really had a standout one since Galileo, which I thought was very, very interesting. I thought the Ardbeg, the Ori Verdes and the Crocodile before that one were just slightly dry for my taste, given that Ardbeg can produce such interesting, slightly sweeter whiskies. This, I think, is certainly very peaty and very dry, but it has that dimension of sweetness alongside, which I think makes it a more complete dram for me. So, scores. I'm swinging between a 7.5 and an 8 for this one. I think I'll give it the 8. I think 7.5 is far too low. 8 for me. 8 out of 10. And an extremely good buy. It should be more or less available for the next days and weeks, at any rate. Ardbeg is very thoughtful with their special releases, and they, like so few whisky companies, they produce enough for everybody. So it's not normally such a big problem to go out and get your own bottle, and they don't all suddenly pop up on eBay or some other terrible practice like that, because they make sure that they get enough out to market so that people who are interested can actually go out and get one, which is very much the way it should be. So I applaud them for that. None of this terribly exclusive collector's bottles sitting around in people's whiskey mortuaries on this one. No, indeed. So, yes, 8 out of 10. Very good whiskey. I think the best one since Galileo. And if you like Ardbeg, I think there's no reason why you shouldn't go and hunt one down. But, anyway, that's that. And this has been the Single Malt Review. I'm going to see if I can do a few more in rapid succession while I have the table to myself. So, we will see what I come up with. Slunger, check back.